Hi, everybody. Happy weekend. And a special welcome to you, Peter. Thank you so much for joining us as the chosen elder today.
Thank you, Kate. It's lovely to be here.
Great. And Pauline, thanks for joining us too. Well, as an elder past. I think you were with us last Wednesday, someday. Can't quite remember. We are nearing the end of our Eldership series, and we've talked of many amazing things, incredible life experiences. We've tried to draw a few generic ideas about what an elder actually is, and it's really delightful today to follow the conversation with you, Peter, and discuss, where you've been, what you've seen. So thank you very much for joining us. Yeah. Let us get started with a little bit of an acknowledgement of country. I just would love you to see the rock behind me. Now, whenever I'm with First Nations friends, whenever I'm in front of a tree or a rock, they always draw my attention to the personality of that rock. And I'm just looking in a very small screen, but I can see the face there, and perhaps you can too. And I think that serves to draw my attention, and hopefully all of our attentions then, to the fact that there's a certain animatedness to the whole planet, and also to draw our attention to how lucky we are to live here in this community of all beings, these trees, these people, these fish, these airways, and these rocks. And in that context, I would really like to pay my respects to the elders of the land that I'm on currently, with the Camaragal land here, and the communities that are still Camaragal by heritage in this area and beyond, that hold at the center of them the idea of humans being in a custodial role in this planet. So full respect to all of the elders and the communities and our own ancestors and every human that's gone before, in bringing us to this point. Hello. Peter, welcome. And before you say anything, I just need to know about the artwork behind you. That's beautiful.
Yes, that's called Galactic Ocean.
Oh.
And there's a series of art that I did a few years ago that I put meditations to, and I took them out onto the land and filmed meditations with the artwork in the foreground. So it's one of the things that once everybody got locked down a few years ago, I wanted to put something out there that people could use that would help them to raise their vibration and move through anything that was happening for them. So that was something I put out to the world using the artwork.
So that's your artwork. You made that?
It is. Well, it's the universe came through me, I guess, Kate, more than anything. But I held the brush. I guess I can say that.
It's a beautiful way of putting it, and also something that is we should always keep forefront of mind. We've grown up in such a culture of this is mine and that's yours. Yeah. Peter, you've been for decades now practicing your art, practicing quantum consciousness and quantum healing, and I would love you to share with everybody that's listening in a little bit about where your journey started. And yeah, let's start there.
Well, if I can just go on and follow you, Kate, just on the front of that, then I'm coming to you from Gumbungear land in the northern rivers of New South Wales, at the back of Coffs Harbour. And I'd like to say that just this farm that we're on, just a few hundred meters away, are the beautiful water holes that were a birthing place for the Gumbungear women for many, many, many generations. So it's quite a sacred area, and you feel that energy when you walk on the land here. So I wanted to offer that as a little intro first.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it's so important that connection that you have to the land, and the fact that that is coming through you, much as the painting and every word that all of us ever speak. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, in answer to your question, I guess it's been a journey of maybe 20 or 25 years since I first got involved originally in energetic type healing with Reiki and that sort of thing. From there, I evolved into hypnotherapy. I felt that, talking therapies, I wasn't really drawn that way. I knew that there was something deeper and more profound that was waiting for us. So my first embarking was into become a hypnotherapist. And from there, everything just started to move further out. I found that we are so much more than our conscious and our subconscious. We are our super consciousness. We are our collective consciousness. We are part of the quantum field of all there is. And because we are seamlessly connected to everything, why not just explore everything? So, and we'll probably go into some detail, but the big change for me was to surrender the hypnotherapy tag and to become a facilitator of consciousness, as working as an instrument for the universe to help people remember who they really are. And that's probably it there.
I think there you have it. It's ultimately healing is exactly that, to understand no matter what phase or stage of the journey that you're at, is that you're taking a cosmic journey. I love the saying that's been going around lately. You're not a human being having a spiritual experience, you're a spirit having a human experience. And the sooner we remember that and understand our deep connection to all other beings and remove the concept of self-centered competition, won't we be happy then? Yeah, won't the planet be glad we're back? Yeah.
I love that saying. That's t-shirts for Christmas, I think.
You've left your run late. There's only a week till Christmas or less.
That's true. Yeah.
I keep coming up with really clever Christmas ideas and going, oh, no, I've only got 7 days. I can't make this happen. It's the pressure of the moment, isn't it? Christmas.
It is indeed.
Yeah. So that was a very brave act and a very beautiful act to define yourself in that way. It wasn't a definition that you took from any other lineage, as far as I know, was it?
Not really. I guess we are. I mean, we're not really separate from anything. So we're all collectively intertwined or quantumly entangled, if you like, if you want to bring in a little bit of the science of possibility, which is what quantum physics usually is. But there's something in about our unique expression of who we are from everything that we've learned. And what I loved about when Jerome Pinja was the first one out of the blocks with our 12 days, and he talked about honouring the ancestors and how we are the culmination of all those who have gone before. And I'm a big believer in that we are part of an energy lineage that continues on us as a representative of our ancestors and also a representative of our soul lineage. And with our maternal and paternal joining, and we are the joining of two lines for male and female, that's never been done before, and you bring in a soul lineage that travels across time and space as well, this unique package that we are, the world has never seen, ever, and never of who we are. That it used to be this great saying years ago that, you're 1 in a million. Well, that's not true. You're actually 1 in billions upon billions upon billions, and there'll never be another one like you. So the greatest gift we can give the world, I feel, is to authentically be who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And that definition, those divisions that we keep trying to make between ourselves of you're a this and I'm a that, just seem almost ridiculous, don't they? When you think that not only every human, but every tree, every grain of sand is different than the next. So we're all beautiful kaleidoscopic exhibitions of that unity. It's beautiful. Yay being on the planet.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what took me into quantum physics as well, because those guys were talking about alternate realities. They're talking about quantum entanglement, which we call oneness. All of that scientific stuff started to come together into consciousness. So when I started to go down the path of quantum consciousness, I thought, well, there's quantum physics as a science of possibility, and there's consciousness as the fabric of the universe itself. If we put the two of them together, there's no limit on where we can go and what we can do. So what I love about the work that we do is that it's limitless because people are limitless. We've had these strange human restrictions put upon us, but all of that is just an illusion. It's not who we really are. And I talk a lot about, the disguise of Pete, because I'm not really Pete. but I had to take a disguise so that I could come and do this chat with you all today. But at the end of the day, Pete's just the way I hang out in the physical realm while I'm busy in the universe doing other things. But Pete has some things he wants to do. So I've got to be Pete for a while.
Or maybe universal consciousness has some things that they need to see happening, and you're just the body or the emissary of that particular thing. And I think, that's a very beautiful and wise way to.
Sure, I'm happy to help out.
Thanks, Pete. Excuse the staccato because you keep freezing and then I come in and then I realize you are still talking. So, but we'll get there. Technology is still what it is. Yep. I'm not trying to talk over you. You're in the hills, aren't you, up there?
Yeah, I'm out the back of Coffs Harbour and Bellingen and those areas. So we're at the bottom of an escarpment. So the only reason we can talk is because I've got a satellite dish. But, I'm coming to you live via satellite from the Northern Rivers area. But I've got to go up to the satellite and across to a satellite on top of you down there in Sydney and then down to you. So if I can do all of that in half a second or so, then that's magic anyway.
Let's not complain. And LA, welcome to the conversation again. It's nice to see that you're there again. Oh, here she comes to us through the mists. Oh.
Hi, I'm just listening in, and I'm going to actually turn off my camera because I'm not going to say anything. So
unless you're absolutely moved to do so, and feel free to go against what you just said and butt in if you would like.
All right, thank you. I'm interested in hearing what Pete's got to say. Thank you.
Thanks. So Pete, what drove you to want to share quantum consciousness and the understanding of quantum consciousness with other people? Is there a motivation for you, or was it just where you found yourself? Is there a conscious motivation?
Yeah, we're here to change the world, Kate.
Love it.
That's it. It doesn't get any more complicated than that. I mean, we've all incarnated here in this place in time and space to usher in a new consciousness for this planet. And I think it's about reviving a lot of the ancient wisdoms that have been lost. And I think it's about drawing new frequencies in from a galactic presence that is more than us, just this planet. Given where I think that the Gaia energies, the cosmic energies, we're here as the bridge between the two. And our role is to pull that up, to pull that down and spread it far and wide.
I love that. So pull that up from the earth, pull that down from the heavens above and spread it far and wide. Okay, beautiful. That lovely commingling of energies and sometimes as a human receiving both of those messages or both of those pathways can get a little bit confusing, can't it? And a bit messy.
Oh, absolutely.
So how does your particular way of working with people help people come back to that understanding?
Well, for me, it's about helping people remember who they really are. And people are far more multidimensional than what we give them credit for. I mean, we're trained by our cultural norms and by societal expectations, even familial conditioning, to see ourselves as just this one person that goes through this cycle of grow to adulthood, get a job, get a mortgage, however we are. I think we're here to bring a new consciousness to the earth, to help other people, to raise vibration of anyone that we come across, and basically to make the world a better place. We're here to recover from the things that we've done as humans as well, and I think there'll be a great swing. It's not just the green movement. There's something about an understanding of this sacred planet that we're on and what we need to do to bring that back into our line of sight so that we can repair a lot of the things that we've done. But we are quantumly entangled with the whole of the collective consciousness of humanity. And that holds a lot of pain and trauma from generations past. And, you know, in one of the courses that we do, we talk about intergenerational healing. And, you know, I dug out those figures that we go through when we're in class and we talk about it. And this helps people understand how important our ancestry is. And, you know, we had that chat, of course, with Jaron Binger earlier in this series. But if I look at this, if we just go back, like we've got 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents. If we go back just 5 greats, and that's roughly 200 years, we have 128 great-grandparents. Okay, 128 people that we're direct descendants from, just 5 generations. If we go back another 200 years, assuming there's another generation every, say, 29 years or so, we have 16,224 grandparents, okay, which is 12 generations back. If we go back another 200 years, so, you know, I'm only up to 600 years now, we have 4,153,344 grandparents. Now, this is just parents of parents of parents of parents of parents. So, because it doubles with every generation. So, you know, if we go back even further, it starts to hit the billions. So we are all quantumly entangled into these family lines, and we have access to all of the energies that they've created through those generations, which gives us an incredible responsibility to help with the healing and letting go of those, but also refreshing the wisdom that comes down through those ancestral lines. And it doesn't matter what country you were born in, you know, your culture, your skin color, your religious affiliations, none of that matters. This is bloodlines. So we are the walking consciousness of humanity, each and every one of us. And then, as I said before, you bring in the soul lineage, where we've incarnated in so many different cultures and so many places across time and space, and other worlds and other dimensions as well. This starts to give you a bit of a snapshot as to who we really are beyond these disguises. And I think when the world wakes up to that and we remember our magnificence and all of us embrace that, then I really feel the world will be a different place. Oh,
I totally agree. And at the, you know, firstly, no wonder we find ourselves so interesting. We are interesting, aren't we? You know, and you get little flashes from each of those billion ancestors we have there, and you go, where did that come from? I've never felt that before. Oh, what a funny spot on my you know, you could, when left alone in a dark room, you could still be interested, you know. But
absolutely,
you know, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, isn't it, to understand that entanglement and the fact that we need to really, really work on that concept of respect. And really, for me, I totally agree. And I believe that the agenda, or what we've done to each other, or whatever you want to call it, amounts to nothing less than enslavement. So by causing people to disrespect themselves, and in the process disrespect everybody else, and in the process disrespect the planet, that it allows people to be enslaved, because you can't possibly be enslaved if you remember that kind of magnificence, can you?
Oh, absolutely. And we all know that there is other places in the universe. And, you know, if anyone thinks we're the only inhabited planet in this universe, then you just haven't run the numbers, because that's been done by lots of people. So the probability of there being life on other planets is one, almost a dead set certainty. And Eric von Däniken ran those numbers back in the 1960s before he published Chariots of the Gods. But if we were from another civilization and we hovered above the earth and we looked at the way that we treated each other and we treated our planet, the beauty of all of the other people that are there, the beauty and the wonder of nature, I mean, the off-worlders would write us off as being, you know, you guys are just no good. I'm not going anywhere near you guys. But still, we seem to get these cosmic frequencies coming through, and we seem to have loving support from other parts of the universe. So those guys must be really special if they still feel that way about us.
Thank you up there, or down there, or around there, in there. Yeah, it's really magical, isn't it, to exist? It really is magical. So why do you think that it's taking so long for us to come back to that understanding of who we are in this universe? What would be the most effective? I guess that question is not so much, philosophical, but how do we move to the next phase? What's the biggest obstacle that we face, do you think, in coming back?
Well, my sense of this is that we learn more in an unremembered state. And I do believe in the cycle of life. It's not so much a past life reincarnation model for me, because I think everything is unfolding at the same time. And I think that we just need this illusion of time while we're in physical bodies, because you need time for, a person to grow from a child to an older person. You need a tree to grow from a seed up into a beautiful gum tree, whatever it might be, animals to be born and then die. So there's a pretend cycle of life that is part of our linear time. So we descend into linear time to try and learn. And I think that through the history of humanity, from linear time for a moment, traversed in a forgetful state.
Pete,
Yes,
I'm
Tanya.
just going to interrupt. That you were about to say something really profound, and you said it, and it froze. So I'm going to ask you, please, can you repeat that sentence prior?
Of course.
Because I was like,
what was the last?
I don't know.
What was the last thing you heard, Tanya?
Oh, I was too busy thinking about no.
No, we're just you're at the point of talking about the fact that when we incarnate into
Yes.
that we have, that there is a pretend, or there's an apparent cycle. Yeah.
Okay. So,
and what we're meant to do.
Cool. So linear time doesn't really exist, but we need it here in the physical form so that we can use it as a learning tool, because it's part of our learning environment to have linear time as an illusion. So I feel that we've existed in the physical body in an unremembered state. We don't know our magnificence. We don't have access to other lifetimes that we've been in. We don't have access to our magnificence because we start each life with a blank sheet. So if you could remember how many times we might have got it wrong, then there's every chance that you might be carrying more trauma than what you know about. So when we come in here, all civilizations get to a point, I believe, where they start to remember. There's an awakening. There's something that happens that helps us to understand that there is more to us than we've ever been told. We are more magnificent beyond what we've ever known. And we are incredible multidimensional beings here that have taken physical form in order to learn. Now, when a whole society, a whole world, a whole planet learns that changes everything. Our systems change, our expectations change, our culture alters. We move into the next tier of cosmic existence that puts us in place with the universe and what our place is. I believe we're in the midst of that awakening. People are accessing other lifetimes, they're accessing metaphysical experiences. They're going into where I started, in the life between lives work, where you go between your incarnations and set up the next one. So I think that our world is in the process of waking up, but that's not in everybody's interest. There are plenty of people who'd rather we stayed asleep. So, but I'm here to do my very best to make sure that we all wake up, that these people that want us to stay asleep don't get their way, and that we move forward as a collective humanity to find our place in the universe and remember who we are.
Hallelujah. Let's do that, shall we? I guess one of the pieces of the of the wisdom, or of the ancient ways of being, or being part of a real community of both human and non-human beings, is to bring back eldership, because until we understand the glory of where we've been and what's being carried through, then it doesn't make much sense to revere people who've been here for a while. So I wonder if you think that what eldership might mean to you when you think of that word. Yeah.
First of all, I love the concept, and it's not just because I'm getting older now, but but I remember, you know, I had a corporate career at one point, and I had been successful in that environment until I realised how hollow and shallow it all was. But what I would see is that, you know, in corporate circles, you're all washed up by the time you're 40. And if you're still in an organization of 50, they're looking to retrench you or get rid of you somehow. And I was thinking, but that's where all the wisdom is. And I saw, you know, 3 guys get retrenched at the same time, and there was like 100 years experience of those 3 guys. I saw them walk out the door one day, and I thought, what are they doing? This is wrong. These people have 100 years of experience here. So for me, I think eldership is 2 things. Certainly there's the accumulation of wisdom, and that comes from our bruises and from our scars and from many of the decisions and the things that we've learned along the way. And I think that's wisdom in action. Wisdom comes through many feeds, but you know, the tougher the journey, the greater the wisdom. As long as you've moved through the processing of all of those energies and turned them from difficulty into wisdom that you can then share with others, so they don't have to take that same path. So for me, it's about the accumulation of wisdom. And the second thing is when we move to an energy of wanting to offer something back. When we reach a point in our lives where, how can I help others? What can I offer the world that... So there's like a selflessness that comes with eldership, I feel. And having listened to snippets of the guys this week, I think you've caught that energy well, Kate, in the people that have been selected. And there's something about they want to share their wisdom because they want to help other people. So for me, it's a beautiful synergy between having something to share and wanting to do it selflessly.
That's really beautiful. I think that's such a succinct way of looking at it, actually. I think for me, and maybe for other people too, it's that sudden, or not sudden feeling, but there was even, I think I could probably put that into a period of months in my life when I changed from, you know, learn, take in, you know, experience, learn, and then suddenly people started to ask me questions, and that evoked in me, oh, okay, learn, give, learn, give, give. And it's that balance that starts to change in your life, isn't it? And it gives life such meaning when you're being called upon to share things that wisdom accumulated. Yeah. I think but to do that, you need the ears to hear you, or you need to be in a position where people actually want to know what you have to give. I guess I count all of us as lucky, because we're in a profession where people are coming to us so that they can now learn something to guide them on their journeys. But as you say, in a corporate environment at 40 or 50, see ya. Any other new bright ideas out there? And the crazy thing for me, like what I really hope with the distillation of what we've all brought together in this series, is to start to look at eldership and look at leadership and put those 2 concepts together so that we can start to develop a healthy model of eldership within organizations, as opposed to what I think is quite pathological. You know, like I know that a lot of people think it's great when somebody becomes a CEO at 33 or becomes the prime minister of a country when they're 38 or et cetera, et cetera. But for me, it just makes me feel a bit giddy and sick, because it's like, okay, yes, I know that people come in with soul wisdom and a pathway through, but it feels much the same as the weather does at the moment. Hot one day, cold the next, et cetera, et cetera. Like that person is still in their learning journey just by virtue of the fact that they're 30 something, you know, they're still in their learning journey. And so, yes, that's great, but they haven't had time to digest bits and therefore to present them in a way that will have the capacity to hold the people that they're bringing through. That's my feeling. I don't know. Have you got any ideas about that?
Well, you know, there's that old saying, Kate, you can't put an old head on young shoulders.
I don't know that saying, but I love it.
Oh, okay. Well, certainly not mine. but that's you know, if I look at examples of modern day CEOs at those young ages and politicians, and you know, I look back to World War II, and I look at Great Britain, and I look how I think Winston Churchill became Prime Minister in his late 70s. And at that time, he stepped into that senior role, and he held strong energy and kept the people together through Blitzkrieg and all those sort of things when London was being bombed. And of course, he wasn't a great peacetime guy. I think they dumped him at elections some years later after they went back into peacetime. But I think he's a great example of somebody who reached his flowering point in his late 70s, and he brought all of that wisdom that job then. And I think it's another saying, I've got all these sayings coming to me that I've heard from other people, and said it's all right to be a late bloomer if you don't miss the flower show.
That's gorgeous.
so yeah, I think he's a great example of eldership, if you like, and you know, without, you know, politics aside, but just somebody who held the right energy for the right time.
I you know, there is also the argument that the time begets the leader kind of thing. So, you know, maybe I am operating on a misconception. You know, maybe it is okay if you're 33 and moving into leadership, but it's leadership, it's not eldership for me. I can't, you know, I find it very hard to watch. You know, even in our own profession, and this is a bit political for all of us, I guess. But, you know, I was an occupational therapist back in the day, and I started occupational therapy when I was 18. And by the time I was the tail end of 21 or maybe 22, I was put out there, and I was asked to run a living skills center for people that were coming out of long-term mental illness, mental institutions, and moving into the community. And I was 22. You know, so fair enough, I did my very best, but I'm just saying that the whole system is a little bit odd, because really, me guiding gentlemen and women that were in their 60s that had been through God knows what and were in that situation for a very, very good reason, and to have to lead them through their dying days, or to lead them through the terror of moving out into community, etc., etc. I think the whole thing needs a reshake, really. Like, how do we best use the natural cycle of being a human to our advantage?
Well, my definition is that leadership and eldership are not interchangeable. And I use an analogy because we're very much influenced by corporate leadership in the Western world. My thought of leadership is that you have somebody standing in front of a group of people and facing them, and those people are looking at that leader. And I think that there can be a lot of ego traps in that, because that person gets the adulation, they are given power, all of that happens. So there's a risk with our leadership model in the Western culture in that we could fall into some of those ego traps. For me, eldership is somebody standing in that crowd with them while they're all looking in the same direction, but they're standing beside them with a gentle hand on their shoulder. So for me, that's more what eldership is about. It's the hand on the shoulder, whereas leadership can be more of a look at me sort of thing. Not to say there isn't great leaders that empower their people, that get out of the way and let their people do a great job. There are some good leaders in the corporate and the business world, but you know, while they pay ridiculous amounts of money for corporate leaders and all that sort of stuff, it's always going to be about the money. And it's never going to be about the connection and the love and all of that. And, you know, this is where materialism has really infiltrated a lot of Western society as well. And I think that's one of the ego traps as well for leaders that move into those things early. They may not have the wisdom and maturity to be able to handle those traps.
Totally. Yes, absolutely. Tanya just put in the chat that it sounds like a state of humility, and that's really been a bit of a theme, hasn't it, for these 12 sessions, that nearly everybody comes to that same, describes it in a different way, but the hand on the shoulder and the back seat, you know, the one that says you step forward and fall back on me if you need to, or let me show you if you ask me, kind of thing. I was listening to Carl Schwab, leader of the World WEF, what is that, World Economic Forum, talking.
World Economic Forum, yeah.
Yep. No matter what you think about that man, you know, one of the things he was describing was that he thinks that CEOs' pay schedules should be linked to the amount of diversity and inclusion and capacity to approach climate change, and that's how leaders in the corporate world should have their pays pegged. And as he was saying that, I was thinking, you know, there wouldn't be a need to do that unless it was an imposed forced system. Like, somebody who really has leadership qualities will do that anyway. You know, you shouldn't have to be docked if you don't do it, because it's so obvious that inclusion, diversity, and caring for this environment, this beautiful world, should be first and foremost part of who you are if you're out there leading thousands of people under you. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds a bit like an agenda to me more than anything.
We could go on, but we won't.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, I think there's what we don't do enough of is we don't open to new types of natural leadership. And I remember many years ago when I was a change management consultant, before I got further into this work, you would go into a workplace and you're a company and you'd be looking for change, and you would look for the natural leaders. There's certainly a hierarchical leadership, but who are the people that they listen to at the water cooler? And who are the people that are the natural holders of the culture and the wisdom of the organization, that are the influences that aren't part of the formal structure? And we found that was how you win and lose the game. And they were people that were naturally gravitated towards because they held something that the other people wanted. And it was usually the energy of wisdom, compassion. They had time for people. They would have that cup of coffee with somebody who was sad. Those are the types of leadership that we need to permeate with business and with corporate stuff, not the ones who are ego-driven, trying to get through a career ladder by a certain age and setting goals. And look, I say that in all honesty because I was part of that type of energy back when I was young. You know, I want to be this level by this age and this level by this age, and how much money can I have? I have more money, I can give my kids more. I mean, it's and that can have a nice intention, but there's other ways in which that can be delivered that has a better energy.
Absolutely. You know, it part of being an elder, from what I can tell, involves being able to hold a bigger picture and a bigger picture still, doesn't it? And to approach whatever you're doing in a holistic manner where all the factors, or as many as you're able to hold, are seen, and that is the kind of the wisdom that needs to be brought through to the younger generations or those upcoming. Yeah. A bird's eye view.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wonder how the practice of what you teach enables people, once you've given them a bit of an insight. Is that insight for good, or do they need to involve themselves in an ongoing practice to maintain that wisdom, or to think into it further or develop it?
Well, there's some fundamental philosophies behind what we do, and when we teach our quantum consciousness and universal consciousness facilitators. And that is that nobody is broken. Everybody is magnificent beyond their knowing, and sometimes they may be out of resonance. And that's because they're learning something, and that there's something happening for them that is unfolding, that is an experience through which wisdom is available. So we teach our practitioners to first and foremost hold the knowing for anybody that they work with, and see them as that multidimensional, beautiful, divine being who is courageous enough to incarnate on this planet in these times. Now, when somebody holds the knowing of that and they walk into the clinic rooms of that person that's come in starts to change, because they may be in the presence of somebody who truly sees them for who they are for the first time in their life. And that's before they even start any of these experiences that we offer. I have trouble calling this a modality now, because it's more of an experience that comes from the knowing in the quantum field of the practitioner themselves that holds this knowing for their client. So what they do is, in the old days with hypnotherapy, I would take people down into a trance state. Now we just free their consciousness from their body and take them out into the quantum therapy. In a couple of different schools that I've had over the years, now I've completely turned that around. Instead of going down, they go out. And some of my old students come back and they say, you're teaching the opposite of what you used to teach us. And I said, yeah, isn't it great that now we're doing it a different way? So when you take somebody away from their human foibles, if you like ego and trauma and drama and all the things that we're so good at in human form, once you move beyond that and you look back and you look at it from that wisdom that comes from being out of body, a bit like a near-death experience when you go down the tunnel or whatever it might be, and you come out and you don't sweat the small stuff anymore, take people out into that space and they see everything differently. And, a skilled practitioner can do that, quite easily and quite naturally. And it's insight after insight that comes from when we're out there. And it's a bit like eldership, because it's like we move into our expanded state of wisdom to look back at something that looks so difficult that then becomes so small. And then we find the wisdom that's within it and the greater purpose for it being in our lives at the start. And then we come out wiser for the experience, knowing more of who we are, understanding that our expanded states of awareness are within our grasp, and we step back into life in a different vibration than when we left.
It's a knowing, isn't it? It's just that. So what I hear you saying is that it's not really a practice so much as a shift in perspective, an upgrade, for want of a better word.
Yeah, it's a vibrational change that has the capacity to change people's lives. Everybody can do this. Lots of people have had metaphysical experiences, whether they've gone out of their body or something's happened to them in a meditation that was unexpected, or like my dear old mum who had a death experience on an operating table. Metaphysical experience, that existential thing that happens to us, that event. We have a choice between living from that place that we've been to, or closing it all down and going back into our conditioning. And if we can stretch our box out to be able to do that, then the world becomes a different place in which we reside.
How beautiful. Yeah. So I guess, again, coming back to the concept of eldership, that's what we're trying to do, isn't it? Just help everybody understand that they exist in a much wider sense, with a lot of space around them for possibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's magnificent, and it's time they all knew.
Time they all knew. We had a big discussion about enslavement the other day. It was in a First Nations context, actually, but we were talking about the whole horror show of what went on in Britain for centuries and centuries, the enslavement agenda of the Romans coming in and enslaving the Saxons, and the Saxons enslaving them. So, but I think it was when the Romans came in, if I'm not mistaken, and enslaved the Saxons, then they had a practice of tying a piece of rope around their neck. And that was meant to symbolize, but also be very practical in saying, at any stage, as my slave, I can take your life and hang you up on that yardarm and you'll be dead. So just watch yourself. And also I'm cutting off what you're talking about, the heaven energy and the earth energy, by cutting off your head from your body, and I own you now. Therefore, you're no longer a cosmic being. Yeah. And then eventually, when enslaving people grew out of fashion, but we went to the next stage where people were servants, and if you were in a particular household, then you'd wear a tie of some kind of color. But the same thing existed, how with a tie you just do that and you've choked the person. So and then that moved into the corporate existence that we've had, where you start to see a whole lot of men, although it's getting less and less. It's lovely to see such an open chest, Pete. But men were all wearing one of those ties, weren't they, just a few decades ago, and not really understanding that symbolized their enslavement to a power which wasn't necessarily great and good. Yeah, it's a funny old time that we live in. Does anybody else have any questions out there? Big picture stuff. Yes. LA, I knew you'd speak.
Well, I'm not going to talk about leadership because I've been in leadership for a long time, and I think it's a very, very complex area. So I don't think that you can just talk about it as good or bad or put a value judgment on it. It is a very complex area that upon layers of influence and so on, best intentions, all sorts of things. So I'm not going to talk about leadership. I'm going to say that in my view, it's not as simple as saying there's, you know, good leaders or bad leaders, or they should be older or younger. I don't actually think that has anything to do with it. But that's one topic. The other one is I'd like Pete's view on concepts that Eckhart Tolle talks about, where he basically discusses the whole area of ego and says, when we no longer know ourselves, we have made it. When we no longer know ourselves, when we are totally detached from ego, is when we are completely connected with everything and everyone, and we are conscious and awake. So I'd just like comments on that. Thank you.
I remember reading The Power of Now many, many years ago. And I remember being blown away by his wisdom early on. And what I loved most about The Power of Now was that, you know, nothing from the past, nothing worried about the future. You're just in the moment. I love that. For me, from what you've said, I think if I feel into that a little bit, I like almost the transcendent view of surpassing the ego, because I think the ego has needs and not all of them are functional, depending on when that ego was formed and how it was formed and what its experiences are and the defense mechanisms that it may create and all of that, some of that complexity of the human side of us. If we step out and above that ego, then we step out and above those needs as well. And, you know, I think it was Tanya that said humility before. You know, if I look at Eckhart Tolle, then humility is one of the things that comes to me about who he is and his presence. And maybe that gentle little sense of humor in the background that he trots out every now and then. But, you know, for me, it's yeah, I mean, for us to let go of the ego, and because the ego is the part that keeps us small, because it has very human and very strong psychological needs that are linked to our human intellect. When we can transcend those, whether those needs themselves have been met, whether we've decided we don't need to meet them anymore, whatever it might be, I think we become more of who we are once we let the ego go, because the ego thinks it's 100% of who we are, when it's actually a very, very small percent of who we really are beyond time and space. You know, there's echoes of a great quote that I like from Carl Jung from a long, long time ago when he was alive. And he said, we can never truly understand who we are until we surrender two types of conditioning. And one is our familial conditioning from our formative years. The other is our societal conditioning from what's expected of us as adults. Once we step out, and a lot of those two types of conditioning are formed around a relationship with the ego that then wants us to function in a world in accordance with that conditioning. So for me, it's about surrendering that conditioning and discovering who we are beyond it. So I think we're sort of on the same page.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think so. I guess I suppose with I mean, semantics has a lot to do with everything. So people can, I mean, every time you put any words out there, there'll be a million different perceptions and interpretations of what somebody means by some word, and they often block any work that's being done in this area or any area for that matter, but particularly this area, because though some of it's founded on research, scientific research and work, a lot of it's not. A lot of it's still unfounded. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist or that's not right. But, you know, until the electron microscope was developed, people didn't know they were germs. They just, you know, thought they were little men running around up your nostrils or something, you know. So for us, it's sort of the same sort of thing. We are not able to measure and quantify everything, and words get in the way, and they often confuse situations. So I think in this kind of work, particularly, you have to be very careful about the, you know, what words we use, and then clarifying, I guess, to some degree, because they can really confuse people. So I don't know, you're doing hypnotic work. You might be using NLP as well, I'm not sure, or work that's, you know, Ericksonian sort of stuff, because it's around, you know, the kinds of words we use that the unconscious mind will pick up on that the conscious mind doesn't pick up on are sort of interesting too. So you might have a comment about that.
We use a lot of silence in our work, actually, because so much happens beyond the words. And I think that some of these metaphysical experiences are downgraded by trying to put words around them. So we find that we often hold space while somebody has the adventure that they do. We need enough to be able to guide them and to steer them in the right direction. But when we move into a connected space, when we're sharing an energy field or a quantum field, there's something that happens in the dance between souls that goes beyond the words that we use. And there's something about an energetic connection, a synergy, if you like, as we bring universal consciousness through for that person for whatever they need that day. The one time we really need words, of course, is at the start of one of these sessions, because we set an intention to either transcend something or to live in my magnificence, or we have a high vibrational phrase that then, you know, drives the frequencies as we take these journeys. But I do have a cure for semantics. My cure for semantics is telepathy.
That's good. Thank you.
Because when you can feel what somebody's thought form is, it transcends the idiosyncrasies of language. So if we all do telepathy, then there'll be no one will be able to cheat or lie or misinterpret or anything. We'll all get the energy instead.
Thank you.
Thank you, LA. Thank you very much for chiming in. Pauline or Tanya, do you have anything you'd like to say or contribute at this point?
I'd just like to say, Pete, the work you're doing is absolutely fantastic, and I'm sort of sitting here thinking, oh wow, we've followed so many things and been in so many areas and what have you, and it's just putting a whole lot of things into a greater perspective for me personally. And I think we don't ever stop learning, but it's the way we learn and the way we are directed to learn. And we were just talking about the kids getting their VCE marks. You know, you failed. Could have you done better? And the humiliation and the disgusting behaviour of so many parents, I feel, is just horrible, because most people are successful without that baggage of a mark. And, you know, you really have, thank you so much, put so many things into context. So thank you.
Thanks, Pauline. For somebody who didn't do well in the higher school certificate, and I did pass sport, but I didn't do so well on the academic side because the academic systems didn't really suit me. And then later, when I went into different learning systems, I actually did well. So the message I want to send to all high school students surging towards their VCE or HSC or whatever you call it in your particular part of the world is that don't let it define you. And you are not that mark. You are so much more. And that's just how well you align with the system. And that's it.
Beautiful. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Pauline. No, she's on silence.
Sorry, Kay. No, that was, yeah, I agree with Pete. It doesn't define anybody. And I mean, part of my background is special ed, working with quite severe disabilities. And I've always said school is never, ever an appropriate place for children. You know, you learn so much more in other areas, and school is something you have to hang on, get through, and then hopefully forget most of what you've been taught, because it doesn't lend a lot of value to what we want to know as we journey on.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we need to change the agenda up. I think it was the Dalai Lama who said if we could teach every 8-year-old in the world how to meditate, then there'd be no violence in the next generation.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Well, yeah, it comes back to your purpose in doing what you're doing, which is bringing people back to their magnificence. I think Osho said a similar kind of thing, which was you cannot lead a happy people to war, you know, and that reconnection and knowing our magnificence means that we can't but be happy. If we Eckhart Tolle talks about that too, you know, being in the moment when we're not driven by the past nor the future, but can actually find our sustenance here now and in the silence. Why in that context, where does war happen? Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the other thing I love too, Pete, about what you touched on before, the way you work is with a lot of silence or space. And I remember reading a quote once that said, the greatest information one can see is when you sit down, shut up and listen to something other than yourself. And I thought that was really lovely.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting, isn't it? And I say this to people sometimes who do talk a lot. And, you know, we've got introverts and extroverts in society. There's a scale along those lines. But when you talk, you learn nothing. Because you're just expressing your thoughts, your view, your opinions, whatever it might be. But when you listen to other people, that's when you can get the wisdom. You know, and they talk about 2 ears and 1 mouth, and it should probably be in that sort of ratio. But there's something about if we stop and we see how much wisdom there is around us having conversations. You know, 3 times in the last this weekend, I've stopped the car and talked to people who were camping, and some guy was looking for wood, and some other people wanted to buy a house down the road, and I stopped and talked to a neighbour as he's fixing his letterbox and learned about 5 things about the local area. When we stop and we actually listen to anybody, they've got something to share, and that's a gift.
Yeah, it sure is. I hope, you know, the fact that Miriam Ungama Rose was Australian of the Year last year, and her point of difference, her message to the world is deep listening to Diri, you know, the necessity to slow down so that you can hear, and therefore listen to the deep well within yourself and within others and all living creatures. So let's hope we're entering into that age. Truly, really. And thank you, you know, yes, words still have their place, and this hour proves it. You know, it's beautiful to hear what you have to say and take on all the new concepts and drive along from here on in thinking about what you've just imparted. So really appreciate what you've done in the last few decades and all the people that you've helped, and the uplifting of the field or the parting of the veils or whatever you want to call it, and bringing people back. Let's hope that everything that we do here and that you continue to do brings that about now.
Thank you so much, Kate. And these have been wonderful conversations that we've had, and we've still got one more to go, I think.
Yeah,
but
conversation with myself tomorrow, Pete.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. But I love the way that you've assembled.
We've lost him. Oh, here he comes.
Such a diverse group of people as well, a sort of very wide and diverse, such a range of people that you've been able to offer to those invited to have these conversations. So on behalf of all of the work you've done, all of you that you've done with this, thank you so much. It's been wonderful to be part of it.
Well, thank you. And I do hope we manage to all pull us all together after the event and after Christmas and New Year, etc., and talk again. Yeah. So, and in Tanya, in response to your chat just then, which says, I'll interview you, Kate, I'm not planning to talk about myself at all. I don't want to. So what I am going to be doing is drawing little bits of wisdom that we've gleaned from these past 11 elders talking to us, and trying to draw whatever patterning I can from what people have said. And you know, love you to come along. It's not tomorrow at 12:30. It's been 12:30 every other day, but it's 4 p.m. tomorrow if the mood strikes. Yep. So thank you so
Well,
much.
Kate, don't forget your piece that is your unique contribution to these conversations.
Yeah,
It's great for you to amalgamate us, but you know, you've got something of great wisdom to share. So we wouldn't want these people to miss out.
That's exactly right. Don't let her off the hook, because I'll be there and I will not let her off the hook.
Good on you. All right, Tanya, she's all yours.
She's all mine. No, because yeah, you're right. I've heard her speak. I've sat by the fire and listened to Kate and have just been in awe. You know, and for me, this whole 12 days has been like that. Like, you know, some people I've never met before, and some people have been my teachers, and it's just been because your teachers teach you. They don't have these conversations with you. Do you know what I mean? It's different.
Yeah.
It's getting to know you on a different level. What makes you tick and what's been happening for you? Because when you're in class or when you're learning, you know, the teachers don't do that. You don't put all this in your bio. And this is the nuggets. This is the absolute nuggets. And I just want to say, we had 70 people register for these, and they're registering every day. And it's not that they're not coming on, they're waiting for the stuff to go onto YouTube. They actually thought they were getting links, and I'm saying, no, I'm not sending out links. I'm going to send out the YouTube. But we've had 70 people join to hear what our speakers had to say, our elders had to say. And I said to Kate, we're doing this next year as well. We're just going to find a different topic. And I'm sorry, no, we've already found the topic. But yeah, I'm really excited because I've learned so much. And, you know, while people are talking, I'm sitting there going, checking out the website, because I'm building a relationship with everybody. And this has been phenomenal for me because I've been to most of them. And yeah, this has been great. And Pete, it was lovely to work with you and then come into this and still get mind blown away. Yeah. So I'm not an elder yet. I'm working towards that.
We're all in a state of elderhood and non-elderhood, aren't we? Constantly.
Yeah. You know.
One of us. Yeah.
And that's okay, because I get to, you know, I actually said this to a lady that did body work. She worked for, she lives in the mountains, and everything is on referral, and she's in her 70s. She'll be in her 80s now, and she does all different forms of body work, because she's picked up so many things over the years. And when you listen to her in session, this woman, everything. To someone like me, you know. And I said to her, I said, you need to stop working and start teaching. And I turned around and I said, because there's all this stuff in here. And I said, it's your duty to share it with us. That's what I told her. She just looked at me and I said, yeah, I put my foot down. But yeah, so I appreciate this so much.
Me too. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Really loved all of your words, all of you. And I hope that this conversation goes on and on and on, because there isn't any stop to how much we can learn from each other. And I just particularly appreciate your bringing to light the concept of quantum entanglement of all of us as humans. And so, you know, how can we but share what we know? And everybody has a completely different perspective than everybody else. So that's where the joy is, that's where the growth is, and that's where we need to be. So thank you so much, Pete. Thank you, LA. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Pauline.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. Thank you, Pete.
Thank you,
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.